Hey everybody, this is Jim at sp500chart.com. It's about 4:30 on October 14th, 2014. Let me read this to you, then we'll take a look. The website in this video are for educational purposes only. Nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I can draw lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I'm not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. Starting out here on a 15-minute chart, basically the feature to see here, a couple things. We have a descending support line that has been in effect ever since 2020 and change. Okay, we've not gone underneath this line. Obviously, it is descending, which means we've been in a downtrend since hitting that all-time high. Now, additionally, we entered a period of sideways consolidation that lasted from the 25th of September through the 9th of October, with 1, 2, 3 clear touches on the top and 2 clear touches right at the same level of about 1925 at the bottom. This pattern really, you don't know which way these things are going to go until they go. It's just a fact. And I mean, you might have a hunch, maybe context can be helpful, but in this case, it could have gone either way. I was sort of obviously hoping it would go up, but I couldn't make that call until we broke this upper line, at which point we would have expected a move into the 2026-2027 range. But upon breaking the lower line, we would expect a move to about 1868, roughly. Okay, once we hit this top line of that pattern, we entered into a descending channel, which is pretty clear to see here. Additionally, this little extended line right here comes from one of our last little downward channels inside that pattern. Interesting how that has also provided support. It's not that amazing really, because it's headed down at a steep pace. You wouldn't expect that to necessarily get violated, but it is interesting when you see 2 bounces right on that line. Now what's interesting today, we still haven't quite made that 1868. And this is just the feeling that I got watching what happened with today's trading. The feeling that I got is that the S&P wanted to break out over this line, but could not sustain any significant move over it, and basically hugged that line for almost half of the day before breaking down a little bit, then getting back over it just a little bit. None of this here is technically significant in magnitude, but I think it is technically significant in the general sense of what it means in relationship to this resistance line. In other words, the S&P wants to get over this line, but I just suspect this 1868 level down here is calling out, saying there's unfinished business. We've got to make this minimum. Then if we can reverse, great, let's do it. So that's the feeling that I got all day long, is get over that line by just a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean no more than about 5-6 points, just maybe less than 0.3% over this line. Coming down just a little bit. not quite making that 1868 target, but still, it's almost like a little schizophrenic feeling right here. We want to go up, but we've got to come down. So, I think this sets up for an interesting situation this week. Let's see if we get technically significantly above this line at some point after we tag 1868. If we do that, then I feel pretty good about a reversal. Now, you might say, how big of a reversal? Well, I would think at least to back test this blue line here, but I want to remind you that this line doesn't have a lot of touches, and a lot of them are a long time ago. So remember when we looked at this on the 3-day chart, you can see the last touch on this line was back in 2012. So I kind of grimace a little bit, because that's a almost, not quite, but almost 2 years before this thing has been tagged. So that means it's a difficult trend line to get just right. When we extend it out 2 years beyond the last touch, any slight error will move this line at this point 15 or 20 points, 30 points, real easy. The line that I think is probably more significant as far as resistance could be this lower horizontal support line that broke, and that's at about 1925. So the moral of the story is this: it looks like the S&P wants to do two things. It wants to get above this this resistance line, but it also wants to make that minimum target of 1868. I think if we come down to 1868 and it looks like we start to bounce, then I feel pretty good about the prospects of at least a snapback or a pullback rally into the 1920s. And of course, we'll have to take a look at it there. It could be that if that happens, by the time it happens, there may be more information in the chart that helps us gauge a little bit better what we might expect going forward. But that's about it for now. I mean, the day was essentially flat, but you could see that little momentum that we got by just before lunch, or right at about lunchtime, and then we just sold back, for the most part, over the top of this line, but then late in the day gave some of that back, and got back under this line here, as if the S&P was saying 1868. We really need to tag that. So guys, there's your video for October 14th, 2014. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch it. Thank you also, all of you, for your very kind support.